Good morning, students. In our last class, we have discussed about decision making and Simon's model of decision making and different types of decisions. Today, we will discuss about individual decision making and group decision making. Students, try to join quickly and give your friend a reminder to join the class. Only 14 of you have joined. So first of all, we will learn about individual decision making. So what is individual decision making? In individual decision making, like sometimes what we find that managers are taking decision on their own. So sometimes what we find that they are taking decision on their own, and sometimes they are consulting with others and they are doing some discussions, and after that they are taking a decision. So what we find that in case of individual decision making, sometimes it is important to take decision individually, and sometimes we have some time, we have some people to help us out, so we are taking decisions in a group. Now there are some factors, and there is something that is creating, these factors are creating some impact on the decision maker, because the decision making is done by one individual. So here we are not finding any factor like other human being, they are also having their ideas, they're sharing their views, so that view is having, will have some impact that is not possible for individual decision making. Here what we find that some studies are showing that the age of the decision maker, the intelligence level of the decision maker, the experience of the decision maker, the skill set of the decision maker, these things are actually having some impact. So whether we will be then about a decision or not. So all these things depending upon all these different types of factors. Now, what are the factors that is creating impact on your decision, on the decision maker? The information input. So when we are taking any decision, for that we need some information. So first of all, what we will do, like we need some information for taking any decision, and that information should be adequate enough and accurate information. Like suppose you want to decide whether you should give some increment to your you will give increment to your employee. So that decision, if whether how much increment you should give, and whether at all you should give some increment in the situation or not, for that what we need some information, and based on those information we can take the decision whether we can afford this amount of expense or not, whether we can actually give some increment to our employee or not. So information is very important. Another thing you keep in mind that when we are taking information, we need adequate amount of information. If you have less information, that is also dangerous. And if you have more information, that is also dangerous. Because if you have more information, sometimes you can get confused. You will not be able to handle all the information together, so you can get confused. So adequate information and accuracy is also very important for information. If you have some wrong information, you will take wrong decision that you know very well. If you have wrong information, so obviously you will take wrong decision. Suppose you have some amount of money, you want to invest the amount in some different financial options are there to invest. So you are trying to gather information. If you are gathering some wrong information, so the investment decision will be wrong. So accuracy is very important and adequate amount of information. That is also very important. Otherwise, the quality of the decision will suffer. The quality of decision will suffer. The quality will not be so good. It must be recognized, however, that an individual has certain mental constraints which limit the amount of information. Like I was telling you, if you have a lot of information, so it will be very critical for you to handle it. Less information is also dangerous, even though some risk takers and highly authoritative individuals who make decisions on comparatively less information. So because they are authoritative in nature, so whatever the information they have, they are not so much depending upon that. So what they will decide, whatever the thing that I will decide, that will be the ultimate thing. So they will take the decision accordingly. Then comes prejudice. What is prejudice and biasness? That you know, I think prejudice and bias, it is creating some impact on the perception of the decision maker. Sometimes what we find that some managers are becoming very much biased about something, and some selectivity problem is also there. Some perception is highly selective, which means that we only accept what we want to accept, and only such information filters down to our senses. And second, perception is highly subjective in nature. So sometimes what is happening, we have some perception that whatever I want to accept, I will just observe those things. I will just accept those things. And other things I will try to avoid. I will try to ignore. So then our decision will not be proper. Then comes the cognitive constraint. Cognitive constraint means we cannot handle lot of ideas together. So we do not have so much of capacity, means we have some limited capacity, and we can think in limited number of ways. So maybe we will be omitting some of the options, some of the way out because of limited capacity. So we cannot perform more than very limited number of calculations in our head, in our brain, which are not enough to compare all the possible alternatives. Maybe we are omitting few of the alternatives. So that is a limitation that we have. And one more important thing, that psychologically we are always very much uncomfortable with decision making. What decision to take? We are not so much sure about our choice of alternative. Means like when you have alternatives, you will have to select one. So that is difficult to take the decision that which alternative I have to take. Because when we are choosing the alternative, we don't know the impact of the decision. That if I choose this particular alternative, so what will be the impact of it? That we don't know. And if decision is felt, we cannot say that this alternative is the perfect alternative that I should select. So that feeling is giving us some sort of insecurity. We are not so much sure that this, if I choose this particular decision, if I take this particular decision, what will be the impact of it? When we are taking the decision, we're implementing the decision. After that, we can come to know. Before that, we don't know. So we are uncertain about it. That's why we are very much inconfident about it. Attitude about risk and uncertainty. You will find some people who are not so much interested to take any risk, who are not so much interested to be to follow some uncertain things, and there are some people who are very easily accepting some. They are accepting the risk. They are taking the risk. So these differences are there in attitude of the decision maker. So these attitudes are developed person partly due to certain personal characteristics and partly due to organizational characteristics. Like when even I think we have learned about organizational culture also. So there we find that in organization, sometimes some organization is so much means they are encouraging the people who are working over there, the employees. They're encouraging their employees to take some risk, to be very much innovative. So they're encouraging those employees. So that is the culture of that organization. So it depends upon the organization also, that what will be your, how will be your decision. So it is not only the characteristics, the attitude of the individual, it is also a characteristic of the culture or the nature of the organization also. And there we have learned that some organization is there who is not so much encouraging the innovation, the new ideas. They are not so much encouraging all these things. What they are doing, whatever things are there, traditional, pre-established things are there, they will follow that. Because the impact of that particular process or impact of that particular decision already established. Know that we do get this result, that we know. So very safe, these decisions are very safe, and they always want to be in a safe side, in a safer side. So that's why they will follow some predetermined procedure processes, so that the result will be known results. So sometimes we find that the organization will give you a punishment, or they will not at all encourage you. They will rather punish you, or they will just dissatisfy you for doing something new. And it may happen that whatever the new things that you are doing, whatever the new procedure that you have developed, new decision that you have taken, so maybe the end result is not so successful result. Maybe the implementation is not so successful. So what will happen if you find that you have done something new and the result is not so good result, and your organization is punishing you, is trying to, is always dissatisfying you for this particular thing. So what will happen second time? You will not do that. You will try to avoid that. So that is the nature of the organization. So it depends on the decision maker as well as the organization also. Managers avoid potentially good opportunities if there is a slight chance of a loss. So in this situation, what will happen? Like if they find that if I choose this opportunity and the result will be means some sort of loss we can face. So it's better to avoid it because the organization is not interested for all these. Personal characteristics of a decision maker related to his attitude towards risk taking affect the success of a decision. Then, intelligence of the decision maker. What is the intelligence level of the decision maker? Highly conservative attitude, if you have, and highly conservative decision maker, risk takers, because you are conservative in nature. So you are not interested to take high risk. So they are low risk takers. The less intelligent decision makers are reported to be more willing to take calculated risk. So they prefer calculated risk. Expectation of the decision maker. Expectation, like if you have high expectation related to your decision, so they are very much optimistic in nature and with not so much they are not so much depending upon the information, and with the help of those information they will take the decision. That is not the case for them because they are optimistic in nature. Always they are finding that it will give me a positive result. So they are not so much depending upon information. Decision makers with low expectation of success, whether I will get some good result or not out of this particular decision. So these people will require more information. So they need more information because they are not so much positive about the result or the outcome of the expectation of the uh, decision. So they have low expectation. So they are depending more on information. Then comes the time constraints. As the complexity of the personal habits of the decision maker increases, the time required to make a rational decision will also increase. So, time is an important factor for decision. When you have time constraint, like when you have less time in your hand, so you cannot invest so much of time to take any decision. So, because some urgency is there, as the complexity of personal habits of decision maker increases, the time required to take a rational decision will also increase because the person is like that. Always he needs more time to take any decision. Even though there are certain individuals who work best under pressure. So under time pressure, like maybe some people are there, so like if they have less time in hand, so they will work very hard and they will put a lot of effort and their performance will be very good performance. Most people require time to gather, so many people will need time to gather some information. So all the information they will gather, they will evaluate the information, they will evaluate the purpose of the decision, and then they will take the decision. Then comes the personal habits. Personal habits of decision maker, that is also important. Like some people stick to their decision, like they want to whatever be the outcome of the decision. They are not thinking about that. So whatever they will decide, they will stick to their own decision only. So some people stick to their decision even if the decisions are not optimal and try to shift the blame for failure on outside factors rather than their own mistakes. So they are not finding it out or identifying their own mistake. They don't want to identify actually. They don't want to identify whatever the mistakes they have done. Rather, means they are not even analyzing the decision that maybe I have taken a wrong decision, so I have to rectify it. These things they are not thinking about. So they are thinking that might be for some this reason this has happened, this particular things has happened, not due to my wrong decision. My decision was correct, but due to this factor, this the result was like this. So we will try to put the blame on other factors. Cultural and social influences. Social and cultural influences are also there. Like there are some something that is some social factors are there that is creating some impact on our decision. Some social norms are there that we always follow, so we want to follow that social norm that is actually trying to means putting our decision in a different track, and means always we have to follow the same track, like we cannot go beyond that. So that is some impact, some influences there of cultural and social issues. A decision maker in Japan arrive at with others. Their style is cultural oriented and makes implementation of decision much easier. So, what is the culture of this country? So, what they are doing, like they are coming up with a decision. They are arriving to a decision at a decision uh, in consultation with others. So, they are taking permission or consensus from others, and then they are coming up with the decision. So what is happening here? This style is very much culturally oriented, and this particular decision will be easy to implement. Why it will be easy to implement? Why it will be easy to implement? Because here what has happened, like the people who will actually accept the decision, they are the people who are particular decision because they are involved in the process. In America, the decision making style is highly individual more than technique. In different places, we have different decision making process. Now comes the group decision making. Sometimes the manager is taking the decision on his own, and sometimes he is discussing with others and taking the decision. Different factors that we have to remember when we are taking decision, like importance of the quality of the decision, the extent to which the manager possesses the information and expertise to make a high quality decision, the extent to which the subordinates have the necessary information. So what is the quality of the, what is the importance of the quality of the decision, and then how much information we have, means as a manager how much information we have, as a subordinate how much information we have, so that we can take a high quality, and this is the structure. If the problem is very take the decision. If it is an unstructured, difficult to identify that where is problem, and very difficult to take a proper decision. Decision obviously whether the decision is accurate or not. That is a structured problem, so it will be easy to take your decision. Extent to which acceptance or commitment on the part of subordinates. So, not how much it will be affected. Manager's decision will be accepted by the subordinates. That we are always trying to find out the probability whether most of the people will accept or not. That also we have to consider. The extent to which the subordinates will be motivated to achieve the organizational goal. So ultimately, everything is related to the organizational goal. So that also we have to keep in mind when we are taking any decision. Sometimes we find that we forget that what is our organizational goal, and the subordinates, we need to motivate the subordinates also so that they can achieve the organizational. But Argyros is saying that groups are valuable when they can maximize the unique contribution of each individuals. Unique contribution. Why we are saying it unique? Because when we are talking about a group, suppose 5 of you are there. So 5 of you will have five different skill sets, 5 different types of experiences, maybe 5 different types of educational background. Maybe you have 5 different types of interest or 5 different types of knowledge. So when we have different types of people, obviously we will get some differences, some uniqueness will be there. So when we are working in a group, when we are taking a decision in group, so what we have to do? We have to properly utilize that uniqueness. That means here we are saying groups are valuable when they can maximize the unique contribution of each individuals. So yes, 5 of you are having 5 different things, but I am not utilizing that. That is also not correct. So, what is when the group will be very much valuable group? When we are properly utilizing these things, the uniqueness that is there within the group members. So, groups are valuable when they can maximize the unique contribution of each individual. Moreover, as each individual's contribution is enhanced, his or her commitment to the resulting decision is increased and internalized. So, the ultimately it will enhance the commitment. It will ultimately the result of the decision will be proper and it will be internalized. Means all of them are getting involved and it will be easy to implement. So because they are internalizing everything about the decision. Now the advantages of group decision making. These advantages of group decision making or comparison between individual and group decision making, or the advantages of group decision making and individual decision making is important for your examination. Advantages of group decision making. What are the advantages? Am I audible properly? Or my voice is breaking? Is it breaking?
No, you're audible properly.
Audible, no? Actually, in my last class, some problem was there due to network. Okay, fine. So we will learn about the advantages of group decision making. able to write it down, you will be able to properly describe what are the advantages. Just keep the point with you, and I think you will be able to describe it properly. What are the advantages? Since group members have different specialties, yes, different specialties they are having, they're coming from different background, different experiences they have, different type of knowledge they have. So what we have to do, we have to utilize all these things. So this is the advantage of group decision making. Also, the information tends to be more comprehensive in nature, and the group can generate a greater number of alternatives. So if you have lot of ideas, so alternatives will be more. So you can analyze those alternatives, so a better decision you can take. Implementation of decision is more effective because the group members, they are in also. So since the who implement the decision also participated in the decision making process, so very easy to implement. Input from a large number of people eliminates the biases that are generally introduced due to individual decision making that we have seen. In case of individual decision making, some bias and prejudice was there. So my decision is getting affected by it. So here the chance is less because a lot of people are there. So biasness will be less. Participative decision making process works as a training ground for subordinates who develop the skills of objective analysis and derive conclusion. So it is giving us some sort of training, some exposure, like we are learning something, a learning platform it is giving us, because a lot of people have different ideas. So that also we can come to know. When we are individually taking decision, just whatever the ideas are coming in our mind, whatever the alternatives are coming in our mind, just we are evaluating those alternatives and we are coming to the conclusion. But here we are considering all different types of ideas. Different types of ideas we are considering. And not only considering, we are listening to them, the discussion is there. So a lot of exchange of ideas is there. So that is a learning experience. We are getting some sort of training over here. Group decision making is more nature. Why? Because we have the opportunity, we have the right to express our views, our suggestions. In case of individual, whatever I will decide, that will be the ultimate thing. So that is autocratic in nature. When we will learn about different styles of leadership, there we will learn about autocratic and democratic. Democratic processes are more easily acceptable and are consistent with the democratic ideals of our society. Then comes the disadvantages of group decision making. What are the disadvantages? It is highly time consuming. Yes, because a lot of ideas will come, we will discuss, and it will take a lot of time. More members, if more members are there, sometimes we are having some disagreement. So some conflict can arise. Decisions made by group may not always be in accord with goals and objectives. Sometimes what we do, like sometimes we get deviated from the goal of the organization. The group members may exhibit focus effect. This means that group may focus on one or few suggested alternatives all the time in evaluating these and may never come up with other ideas, thus limiting the choices. You have a lot of choices, but you are just focusing. We are not giving so much importance to all the alternatives. Rather, few alternatives we are selecting, and all the time we are trying to evaluate and we are suggesting some alternatives that we are doing. So ultimately, we are limiting our choices, because when you are if you have a lot of alternatives, if you evaluate all of them, if you work with all of them, so ultimately so that is better. But if you are doing this kind of thing, so ultimately you are limiting your choices. That will be called as focus effect. Some guidelines for effective decision making: be sure for that the purpose of group is well defined. The purpose, the goal, objective should be clear. It will the communication should be very free communication, and group is representative of all those individuals who will either implement the decision. So, so the implementation will be easy if they are the part of the group decision making process. And be sure that the group has access to all necessary information. So information is very important. On the basis of that only we are taking decision. And the composition is also very important, whether we are taking people from different or that also consider. Sure that membership take, like giving their views, they're giving views. That is not the case. Like they are very much committed to the decision, whatever decision that has been taken, so they're accepting it very well. Be sure that the group is not dominated by any member. Maybe one person is dominating, so again it is becoming an autocratic style, that you will take the decision, you will just convince others. So that is not the case, no, that is not expected. So be sure that the size of the group is adequate. If too many members are there, so unnecessarily lot of time will be wasted. A lot of different types of thoughts will come. So what we expect, at least usually 5 members are considered to be adequate. So adequate need, not much, to less. So, in our next session, we will learn about leadership. We do not have so much of time to start it today. So, in our next session, we will start with the leadership, different styles of leadership we will learn, and then theories of leadership is also there.